Converted Man here. I understand at this point in your spiritual life, you are probably wavering in respect to atheism and seek answers to questions posed by religion. However, it appears in the past you have either posted hateful or disrespectful comments or liked videos that are disrespectful on YouTube regarding religion, religious people, or God. Please do not attempt to post on my channel, for I will probably be unable to help you. Your comment has not been approved or even read. Well, then how do you understand what I am doing then if you haven't read my comment? I mean, how do you know any of this stuff that you're saying about me? This is all special knowledge claim that you can't possibly know what I'm feeling or thinking or... whatever. Enough with that nonsense. It's time to address a video that I'm sure is full of sense and has no nonsense whatsoever. Yes. Hey, how's it going? What? I can't understand a word you said. That's because you just performed an outright lie. So whenever I lie, I can't understand the outright lie? That's right. But that doesn't make any sense. Just like this video! Wait, but if you're telling people that this video doesn't make sense, does that mean that you're lying about it? I don't know anymore! Just watch the video!
He's obviously omniscient, omnipotent, etc. Otherwise, he'd just be another creature that somebody else made. The ultimate containing set cannot be contained and will contain everything, and one of the attributes that the ultimate containing set must contain is personhood. You're a person. I'm a person. Where did that attribute come from? Okay, it is not biological. Personhood is not biological.
Let's first address the issue of these obvious attributes. Again, what makes these things obvious? How do we know that these are attributes that God has? No argumentation is given. The only statement that seems to support it is an appeal to consequence, another logical fallacy, which means we get to be skeptical of the idea. We have to be skeptical of the idea, I should say. We don't just get to be skeptical of it. But nonetheless, even if we ignore the appeal to consequence, other gods that you and others that have a particular religion, especially monotheistic religions, have, would to you be false gods. But those gods have this attribute. So they are applying this attribute of omnipresence or omnipotence or omnipotence or all three to their particular god. Just because they're applying this attribute doesn't make their god real, doesn't make their idea real. I can apply these attributes to my computer that is real, and it doesn't turn my computer into God. These attributes either are really part of that thing that I'm referring to, or they are not. These attributes, as far as I know, are not part of my computer. I cannot demonstrate any of these attributes to be present in my computer, and I cannot accept that these attributes are part of this object, this entity, that you have not demonstrated to exist in the first place. You're merely asserting that these attributes are present with this entity, otherwise it's just another made-up idea. Okay, well then it is just another made-up idea because you have not shown that these attributes are a part of this entity, and even if you somehow did show that these attributes are part of this entity, you would then have to show how we know that this entity is real compared to the other entities that also use these attributes that you say are not real. You give no argumentation, you provide and produce logical fallacy as a reason to accept this idea, and then you do not give an argumentation that shows that these attributes somehow make your God actual, whereas these attributes would make a false god not actual. How does that work? No argument, no counterexamples are provided, nothing here to examine at all. We must be skeptical of this point. The ultimate containing set. Whatever the bleep that is. If anyone knows what an ultimate containing set is, let me know. I'm going to look it up, of course, and I'm going to not do my homework and see if I find anything about it at all, and I'll put that as a link on the description, but I really don't think that it is a real thing. I think it's something that she made up. I could be wrong, but based on what she told us about it, it's a set that contains ultimately everything. I guess that's what ultimately means in this case. So it contains everything. It has to contain personhood. Okay, well then it contains not personhood because it has to contain that because it's the ultimate set. It contains everything. She didn't say that it contains things that are logically coherent for it to contain. She said it's the ultimate containing set and that it has to have this attribute. So then it has paradox because it would also have to have every other attribute as well. So because we have a paradox, we cannot resolve this particular paradox. We have conflicting things. We have things that contradict each other, and when we have contradicting ideas, we have to dismiss that the idea is potentially true. So that's what we're going to do with this idea of an ultimate containing set, and we're going to move on. Hey, I don't know where personhood came from, so it came from the flying spaghetti monster. Because I don't know where it came from, so we don't know where it came from, so therefore whatever I say is actually true. Right? Right? I can appeal to ignorance, right? I'm allowed. I don't know how it works. It must be magic. Hey, the tide comes in and the tide goes out. How does that work? I don't know. Must be God. Must be a miracle. You know, it reminds me of this song. It must be Santa. Worst song ever. I hate Santa Claus. That's a whole nother subject. I'll talk about that during December. Anyways, must be Santa, Santa Claus. Yeah, right, because we don't know how these presents got there, so it's got to be Santa. that's the explanation. Sure sounds good to me. Yeah, sure, why not? Go for that. Appeals to ignorance always, always fail. Epically fail. And if you don't know, something like, where did personhood come from? Personhood not really being the actual term, we would call it consciousness, but whatever. If you don't know where that came from, I don't know, there's this thing I like to call research, that you can do this wonderful thing called research to find out where it came from and find out what we know about it and why we know what we know and how we knew what we knew. And, you can, read stuff and look at stuff and understand things, but that would require doing your homework. So we can't have that. So, yeah, I don't know where it came from, so it must be Santa Claus. Flying spaghetti monster, a wizard did it. Why not? Sure, let's just do that. Appeals to ignorance for the lose. No. No, 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 no. Just because you don't know where personhood came from doesn't mean that it came from thing that you just made up. In fact, you don't even know where it came from because you don't know where it came from. So, appeal to ignorance. And now we come to the outright lie. Here we go. Hey, how's it going? It's me again! Hooray! Okay, so we don't want to hear the outright lies voice, so I'm going to hang up on him once again. Wait, no, I want to talk! No, sorry. Okay, so she says that personhood is not connected to biology. Well, that's not true. It is connected to biology, completely dependent on biology. And in fact, I wouldn't call it personhood, I would call it personality or consciousness. We can examine people who have had brain injuries, and we can see, subjectively speaking, that their personalities have changed. In fact, there are documented cases of this. Many documented cases of both physical brain injury and other types of brain changes, like lobotomies or splitting the hemispheres in half, and people change. In fact, even without those examples, we still have the example of people changing over time because experience makes people different than they are. Who I was 10 years ago is not the same person that I am today. If personhood was disconnected somehow from biology, I should be able to behave the exact way that I did behave 10 years ago. But I can't do that. In fact, I should be able to behave how I behaved at any age that I've ever experienced. That's not the case. I should be able to access memories from any age I want. That's not the case either. Why not? Because it's wholly dependent on my brain and how my brain is functioning and how well it's functioning. And it is not a separate process. In fact, there is a thing that we would call this idea called duality. Now, duality seeks to make an argumentation that there is a difference between mind and brain. That's why it's called duality, because there is the physical element and then there's the non-physical element. But duality is kind of a sophisticated word that I would expect a scholarly type of person to use, or even someone that's educated on the subject matter. Oddly enough, this self-proclaimed scholar, brainouty, doesn't do either of those things. Does not use the word duality. Instead, he just says, oh, it's not connected to biology, which is not true. That makes it an outright lie. It is completely connected to the brain. Completely and utterly dependent upon the brain. Without the brain, there's no personhood. Without the brain, there is no personality. Without the brain, there is no person. They do not and cannot exist without the brain. If you want to prove somehow that they can, great, go for it. I would love to see it. You're not going to do it. Many have tried to do it. But at least with the argument of duality, we have a more sophisticated approach to that goal than what we have here. Now, I reject the duality argument because I think that the naturalistic explanation is far, far more explanatory than that argumentation strives to argue for. But if she had at least given us that argumentation, she would not have performed an outright lie. At best, she would have given us a half-truth, and there would have been other objections I would have made to that argument. But I could have respected the intellectual endeavor of going after the duality argument rather than just stating this outright lie. Thank you so much for listening to my in-depth examination of brainouty. Part 4 will be entitled Non Sequiturs and More Nonsense. Oh, goody, goody, goody. I so am looking forward to that. I'll see you then, and remember, as always, unless and until we have... Hold on. Yes? Hey, how's it going? Why do you have to say that every single time? I don't know, it's my thing. You ruined my exit. I always do this certain thing at the end of my videos, and you've ruined it! You've ruined it! Are you happy? Yes, I am! I hate you, outright lie. I hate you. I should get bonus double points when an outright lie happens in the video. Somebody said that ages ago. That should be a thing. You know, unless and until we have a logically coherent argument, we must be skeptical of the claim.